Have you ever found yourself lost in thought, only to feel more isolated with each passing moment? The deeper you think, the further you seem to drift from the world around you. And the more clearly you see things, the more people start to distance themselves from you. It's not just in your head, it's a pattern we've seen throughout history. Society has often feared those who think too deeply, not because they were wrong, but because they saw things others preferred to ignore. Take a look back in time. Thinkers like Socrates, Galileo, Nietzsche, and even Tesla were often met with ridicule, isolation, or outright hostility. They weren't rejected because their ideas were flawed, but because those ideas made people uncomfortable. They forced society to confront truths it wasn't ready to face, and this pattern persists to this day. One philosopher who grasped this tension was Arthur Schopenhauer. He believed intelligence wasn't a gift, but rather a curse, one that isolates the individual who sees the world too clearly. But why does this happen? Why does society as a whole reject those who think differently from the mainstream? The answer lies deep in the psychology of human nature. Think about it. When we stand next to someone physically stronger, we might admire their strength. When we encounter someone wealthier, we might feel envy, but we don't take it personally. But when faced with someone intellectually superior, something strange occurs. Psychologists call it the mirror effect. A deep thinker doesn't just challenge ideas. They force others to confront their own limitations. And people don't take kindly to that. You might notice that even the mere presence of someone who thinks deeply can make others feel inadequate. It's not about arrogance. It's about discomfort. The deeper a person thinks, the more they reflect back the flaws and limitations of those around them. And let's be honest, people would much rather keep those uncomfortable truths hidden away. Why is this the case? Intelligence, unlike physical strength or wealth, strikes at the heart of our identity. We define ourselves by our thoughts and beliefs. When someone comes along who challenges the very foundation of what we think we know, it feels like an attack on our self-worth. It's not that the intellectual is trying to demean anyone. It's that their very presence forces a confrontation with the ego. And, as human beings, we will go to great lengths to protect our ego from harm, even if that means silencing those who make us question ourselves. If you've ever tried to introduce a deep or complex idea to a group, only to be met with awkward silence or a sudden topic change, you're not alone. This is not just coincidence. It's a defense mechanism, a way for the brain to protect itself from feelings of inadequacy. Instead of engaging with these new ideas, people tend to dismiss them. Deep thinkers often find themselves on the outskirts, not because they desire isolation, but because society unwittingly pushes them there. Ironically, confidence is often more highly valued than intelligence in social settings. People tend to gravitate toward those who project certainty, even if their ideas lack depth. In a world that rewards charisma over insight, it's no surprise that simple, emotionally charged messages often gain more traction than complex, nuanced discussions. This is one of the paradoxes of intellectual life. The more deeply you seek truth, the more disconnected you become from the majority. This rejection of deep thinking isn't just social, it's biological. Modern neuroscience shows that when people feel intellectually inferior, their brains go into fight or flight mode, triggering the amygdala, the same region responsible for detecting physical threats. This response explains why deep thinkers often make others feel uncomfortable. Their mere presence can evoke fear, much like facing a danger. This brain wiring goes back to our evolutionary past, where survival depended not on individual intelligence, but on social acceptance. In tribal societies, being outcast could mean death. Our brains are therefore wired to value group cohesion over individual intellectual achievement. When a deep thinker enters a social setting, their presence challenges the status quo, disrupting the group's harmony. The brain interprets this as a threat, like facing an enemy, rather than as an opportunity to learn. There's more. Studies reveal that intellectual rejection is not uniform. In one-on-one settings, people tend to feel less threatened by deep thinkers. But when in groups, the response shifts. Social status becomes more important, and people feel more vulnerable if they are outshined by someone else's intellect. This leads to unconscious efforts to diminish or exclude the deep thinker to protect one's standing in the group. This is why deep thinkers often find a sense of community in private conversations, but struggle in larger social environments. The dynamic is different when there's no need for comparison. Cognitive biases help explain why people resist intelligence, the Dunning-Kruger effect. People with limited knowledge often overestimate their understanding, leading them to dismiss those who know more. Status quo bias. People prefer familiar ideas because they're comfortable, even if those ideas are outdated or inaccurate. Intelligence, which challenges the status quo, makes people uneasy. The backfire effect. When faced with information that contradicts their beliefs, people tend to double down on their original opinions rather than consider new ones. In the digital age, these cognitive biases have been amplified. Social media prioritizes engagement over depth, which means that emotionally charged content often trumps thoughtful discussion. In this environment, deep thinkers struggle to be heard. Their complex ideas don't fit into the quick, digestible sound bites that go viral. So, what does this mean for deep thinkers? It's clear that intelligence is not just met with resistance, it's biologically and culturally programmed to trigger discomfort. But this doesn't mean that deep thinkers should stop sharing their ideas. Instead, they must navigate these forces with awareness and strategy. Schopenhauer, for example, believed that while intelligence could lead to loneliness, there were ways for thinkers to cope. He advised embracing solitude as a privilege, finding like-minded individuals and engaging with the world wisely, sharing insights only with those who are ready to hear them. In a world that often values simplicity over depth, Schopenhauer's teachings are a reminder that intelligence, while isolating, also brings clarity and freedom. Deep thinkers are not inherently flawed. They simply see a world that others are not prepared to see. History proves that deep thinkers are often ahead of their time. Socrates, Galileo, Nietzsche, Tesla. They all faced rejection, ridicule, and even persecution in their lifetimes. But now, we honor them as visionaries. They were rejected because their ideas were too advanced for their time. They were right, but society wasn't ready for them. So, if you find yourself questioning the world in ways that others can't understand, remember this: you're not alone. You're part of a long tradition of thinkers who saw the world differently. And while society may reject deep thinkers, it is often these very thinkers who drive progress and change. As you navigate your own journey, remember that society's resistance to deep thought is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of the world's discomfort with change. Keep questioning, keep thinking, and above all, keep finding ways to connect with those who understand. Your thoughts matter, and history will prove them right, just as it did for those who came before you.